Alrighty.
Hi, welcome along to Steve Wraith's podcast. And today I've got a special guest, a good friend of mine, Andy Scott from London. How are you, Andy?
I'm very well, Steve. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and you, mate. And we met down in London. You were good enough to come to my book launch down there at the Punch Bowl.
Yeah, down at the Punch Bowl. Yep.
Down in Mayfair, and it was great to meet you. I came down with Jez, who's a good pal of mine, and you're the author of Tales of a Page, a London's Loveable Villain. You're involved in PR,
Yep.
London taxi PR. You've been a Chelsea fan for over 50 years, and you've done books, music, film, books. Amazing life you've led, mate. And let's go back to the start.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you were born, and just your upbringing.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was born and brought up in Barnes, southwest London. So just over the river from Hammersmith Bridge, which is where great Uncle Chick was from. All the family on my mum's side are all from Barnes and Mortlake. So we're all sort of dotted around that area. That was where I grew up. That was my stomping ground. I went to school there, went to college there. My first job was in the print. I was a print apprentice, literally 5 minutes away from where I lived in Barnes. So I started out in print. I was in that for a good 14 years, worked in London, then went to Birmingham, worked in Manchester, Liverpool, all around, travelling around. Some pretty interesting times because it was the late 80s, early 90s. So there was a lot of stuff happening around Manchester and Liverpool, in particular with the music scene. Became very good friends with a guy called Peter Houghton from The Farm. Got into the casual side with the football. I'd been born into Chelsea, if you like. When we won the FA Cup in 1970, my dad went out the next day and bought me the Chelsea kit, and my mum sewed a big number 9 on the back. So that was it. Peter Osgood was my hero, and Chelsea was my team from the age of 5 years old. So I'd started going to football probably from about the age of 8 or 9, and then was being taken every other week for Chelsea were playing at home one week, and then Fulham would play at home the next. So my uncles who were Fulham supporters, unfortunately, would drag me along to Fulham. And then the next week I'd be saying, well, we've got to go back to Chelsea. We've got to go back there, got to go back and see the Blues. So I become immersed in football. Like I say, the casual thing was a big thing with me. Got to know some really good guys through that who stayed with me like throughout the years. Long-term friendships, etc. But I stayed in the print probably till mid-90s. Got heavily involved in the music scene in Birmingham and started working for a music promoter, sort of part-time, just evenings and whatever, doing music promotion for him. There was a guy called Dave Travis. He was putting on bands in Moseley, Kings Heath, and some of the big gigs at Wolverhampton and Birmingham Town Hall, etc. So the really early days of the likes of Oasis, Ocean Colour Scene, when those guys were kicking off, was fortunate enough to see Oasis when they were a support band, Ocean Colour Scene when there's about 10 guys in the audience just watching them. So, and I then sort of thought, well, right, I was doing music promotion and putting stuff out to the local paper, and the Birmingham Post and Mail. Dave wanted stuff in the Birmingham Post and Mail, so I just kept on bombarding him. And what I'd do is I'd go along to a gig. He'd put me on the gig list, on the guest list rather. I'd send in a report the next day to the Birmingham Post and Mail and say, look, this is what Dave's put on. This is a report of the gig. This is a review of it. I got a call one day from the music reporter there who said, look, he said, with all the best will in the world, he said, I love what you do. He said, it's really good stuff. He said, but unfortunately I can't use it. but he said, I want you to work freelance for me. And that sort of got me onto the writing side. And I thought, maybe there's a career here to be made. When I was training in the print, I'd learned touch typing, so I become a typesetter. I'm old enough that I learnt to type on a hot metal machine, which is going back a good few years now. So I've come all the way from hot metal right the way through to modern technology.
Yeah.
So I knew what I was doing with regards to being able to use a keyboard and sending stuff in, etc. But he then would pop gig tickets through my door. And like I say, around that time, around the 90s, obviously you got bands like the Blue Tones, all the sort of Britpop, Blur and everything, Pulp. They're all kicking around in the early days. Sleeper, people like that, Aston Villa Leisure Centre. So I was going out and I'm seeing these bands for free. And all I've got to do is just do a report on the gig for the next day for the paper, and then my name, before I'm like an accredited journalist, my name's in the print already, which was absolutely superb. And then I thought, well, I've really got to make a career out of this, so I looked into it. And strangely enough, when I've been in the print and working down in London, a guy that I'd worked with, who was the editor of a magazine, was actually running a journalism course. So I got in touch with him, and he said, you've got to sit an exam, you've got to fund yourself, support yourself. It's a year-long course and whatever, and you've got to sort out some work experience. So I did that, and I was lucky enough, passed the exam, got some money together, funded myself, got freelance work at the BBC. Was lucky enough to work on Match of the Day magazine, which was absolutely superb. Worked on the sports programme on breakfast TV as well, booking guests in the morning. So all of that was good. So after college, I just had to get myself a full-time job. And the first job I got was working for a paper industry magazine. And through that, I got to travel all over the world. I then got headhunted by Haymarket magazines for one of their industry titles. Again, continued to travel all over. And I was a journalist for good best part of 10 years. I also freelanced for Chelsea magazine as well. And the best part of that was I was doing stuff for guys called Teamwork Sports Agency. A guy called Jerry Cox is a well-known reporter now. Funny enough, we've been in touch about the forthcoming book as well. So I was doing stuff for them, and they sent me out one of the jobs, paid freelance jobs, which I'd have done for free anyway, was to ghostwrite Peter Osgood's column every month for the Chelsea magazine. Now that was a dream come true. So I'd have a good hour and a half conversation. Ozzy had come off the golf course or wherever he'd been out, and he'd just go, right, what are we going to talk about this month, Andy? So I'd say, well, whoever, you pick like a player. And so he'd ramble on about Sponge, Tommy Baldwin, or Hutch, Ian Hutchinson, whoever he chose to talk about. And that was bliss. That was great. So that was a real dream job. And that was running alongside the full-time work. And I stayed in journalism, like I say, for 10 years, and then branched out on my own to do PR. And I've been doing that since 2006. So for 14 years now, and that's been going well. And during that time, Dad sadly got taken ill with cancer, and we had to make some harsh decisions really as to what he wanted to do, because obviously he was suffering quite a bit. But I said to him, do you want to travel? Do you want to do this or that? And he wasn't really up to anything. But I'd always remembered whenever we sat down to watch a film or whatever, he'd go, oh, I met that guy, or I met such and such when I was working at the Dorchester. And I said, look, it'd be be fantastic, because we often used to talk about my late nan as well, who had some great tales, God bless her. And I said, look, we said, sadly when she passed away, wouldn't it be great to sit her down and, have got her on tape to talk. So I said, look, if you're up to it, in between, when you've got to go for chemo or, I'll set the tape going and we'll record your memories. And he said, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Love that idea. So in lucid moments, we just started off and off he'd go until the first part of the tales that form the first book, Tales of a Page. And we was lucky enough. He was well enough to. I got him a visit back to the Dorchester. Bear in mind, he last sort of set foot in there as an employee back in 1955 when he finished there. So there was obviously a few changes, but they treated him magnificently. And we went behind the scenes, looked at all the changes that had been made, because now there weren't stairs coming up from the kitchen. There was an elevator and an escalator and whatever, which obviously made the pages and the waiters' job was a lot easier. But yeah, he absolutely loved it. And the Dorchester were fabulous, because they said, look, when you do the book, let us know. And because obviously around that time, very little photography was taken, obviously, of the pages. Dad didn't have a camera to take sort of pictures of himself or whatever. So they said, we'll sort you out with an image library, which, bless them, they were absolutely superb with. So I had my own private image library to be able to utilise to be published in the book, which is where a lot of the images come from that you see in the book, that are like behind the scenes with the designer Oliver Messel, the picture on the front cover from the coronation inside as well. All of those have very kindly been supplied by the Dorchester, and there's enough left over for the second book. Great Uncle Chick, who's sitting very proudly behind your good self there. He was introduced in that book because himself and a fellow wrestler came and paid Dad a visit at the Dorchester. They came there after Chick had had a win on the horses or whatever, or one of his fights. So they came all tuxedoed up, the pair of them, looking like, bear in mind, this is sort of mid-50s, and Chick is 19 stone, 21-inch neck, looks like a real all-in-all villain, He's coming in with a heavy guy, almost probably a bit thick set than him. They both sit down, and I don't think the maitre d's or the waiters knew what to make of it. They probably thought it was all going to kick off in the place. So I think whatever they wanted, they got. And they made a great fuss of them at the time. I think Chick's parting words when they left were, "Oh, it's a great place here. We'll have to come back again." I think that put the fear of God in them, because they thought, "Oh no, they're going to come back," But so that kick-started really the research into Chick, because, like I say, he'd been such an interesting character in the family. There was a lot of stories, and you probably know yourself. In families, there's always sort of tales about one character in the family who supposedly did this or did that, and somebody's always going to say, "Oh, yeah, but he was a bit of a lad, and he probably didn't do that. He probably did something else or whatever." So several of the sort of rumours around Chick, and how he falls into place is he's my dad's mum's brother, so that's the family connection. And so there was two significant things. There were several, but the two that stand out was, one, that there was a rescue on in the Thames at Hammersmith, that Chick had dived off Hammersmith Bridge, 1930, and saved 2 people from drowning. And his daughter Iris, my cousin, she said, "Oh, knowing Dad," she said, "he was probably drunk, probably coming back from the pubs that he used to drink in Hammersmith." And she said, "Probably what happened is the coppers were coming over the other way, and he probably thought, oh God, I'm going to get arrested. So he jumped in the river, you know, and that was it." Anyway, digging around, we actually found a certificate that basically clarifies. It's from the Royal Humane Society, and that documents the incident. I got in touch with the Royal Humane Society, and a lovely guy there did some research for me and found the actual records of the incident. So we got the actual transcript of what happened. So basically, we were able to prove and clarify that that incident actually happened, that Chick got recognised for it. That's what the current petition that's going at the moment to get Chick recognition for it, some 90 years on, is going alongside the completion of the book at the moment. And what happened was he was walking over Hammersmith Bridge with his brother Albie, his younger brother Albie. This is 15th of June 1930, about 3:30 in the afternoon. A young girl is in trouble in the water, which is the first person he sees. He says to his brother Albie, run back over the bridge. They're sort of halfway between Hammersmith and Barnes. He says, run back over, get the police. He says, I'm going in. He then sees that there's a gentleman also in the Thames, not far away from her, who has gone in to try and rescue the girl himself, and also got into trouble. So Chick jumps in off Hammersmith Bridge. He brings out the young girl, who's about 9 or 10 years old, and then goes back in and brings the gentleman out as well, who's around about 35 years old. Now, I don't know if you've ever walked over Hammersmith Bridge, but depending what time of day you walk over, the side that we're talking about is, if you're coming from Hammersmith, it's on the right-hand side. So you're looking down the river, down towards Barnes. Yeah. If you look directly over the railings around the sort of tower bits of the bridge, which are the support bits, you'll see around those like whirlpools, and they're the current, the fast flowing current, and they create like little whirlpools and whatever. Now, I've been able to find around the time of that incident what the tide was like, what the tidal waters were like. Fortunately, Chick, obviously being the build that he is, and being a very, very strong swimmer, is able to battle against that current, and do it not once but twice. So it's a tremendous feat, of heroism, not thinking of his own self. And it was just incredible. So the fact that we were able to confirm that was actually brilliant. But at the same time, we had another rumour around that this wasn't the first time that he'd done it. And when the guys at the Royal Humane Society were going through, they said, there's another incident. Now, Chick's full name is Arthur Richard George Knight, so ARG Knight. He said, we got a private ARG Knight. He said, was Chick ever in the army? I said, yes, he was. Chick was in the 1st Battalion Suffolk Regiment. He signed up, we believe, around the probably the very early 1920s. I'm still waiting for the service record to actually come through, but we know for a fact that he served out in Gibraltar, he served out in India, he was in Delhi. And so 1924 in Gibraltar, June again, this time very early June, Catalan Bay. Catalan Bay is again a very tidal area, and people have as recently as last year, actually drowned in that area because of the tidal waters, because how strong they are. So Chick's in the battalion, and they're in the bathing party. They're actually all out relaxing and whatever. A fellow soldier, a private Durant, gets into trouble. He's about 300 meters out from shore. Chick swims out, gets him. By this time, Durant is actually unconscious, brings him back to the shore, performs CPR, and resuscitates him. So this is 3 lives he's saved. Amazing. So Chick is now a triple lifesaver. And the governor of Gibraltar came to the barracks and presented Chick with his other Royal Humane Society certificate. Now, obviously, embarking on the book, those 2 incidents form separate chapters in the book. But whilst we were out in Tenerife last year, a similar incident had happened in Gibraltar, where tragically somebody had drowned, a British lawyer had drowned. And I got in touch with the Gibraltar Chronicle and just said, look, I'm writing a book about my great uncle Chick. He actually rescued somebody out there in 1924 in exactly the same waters. So they got in touch and they did a big splash on Chick. So the Gibraltar Chronicle, and we're talking, like I say, back in 1924 when he did this rescue. So roll forward 2019 and Chick makes the Gibraltar Chronicle documenting that whole incident and what happened. And as a result of that, I took the paper up to Gibraltar House in London and said, look, I just wanted to inform you that this happened, that this has gone in. Is there anyone I can pass it on to just to make them aware? Maybe again look at getting some recognition for Chick to say, this is what happened, this is the incident, etc. I get an email come through from the councillor in the UK, who then gets in touch with the mayor of Gibraltar, who then gets in touch with me and says, please put Chick up for a posthumous Mayor of Gibraltar's life-saving award, which Chick is now up for. So all of that has sort of propelled the book into new sort of spheres where we're getting coverage prior to obviously publication, which has been superb. Guys that you will know, Jason and Brian from GHQ magazine got in touch as well, did a big interview with them. The Daily Mail, we had a piece in there. We've had some pieces in My West London and Hammersmith Today newspapers. I did an interview the other week with the Evening Standard. So all of that has put Chick very much back in the spotlight for literally when this book finishes, when I've completed the writing and the researching, then hopefully, we'll see it taken to a level that I want it to get to. We've had people suggesting a possible documentary and a possible film, and I very firmly believe that due to who Chick knew, who Chick mixed with, and obviously what Chick, the exploits that he got up to both in and out of the ring, I feel there's definitely something there to be able to do a good job on it, and maybe get that gentleman behind you up on the silver screen. Who knows? Because he's been in films himself. Part of his cause célèbre, if you like, was obviously showbiz people were mixing around in all sorts of things back in the the late 30s, early 40s, when Chick was sort of at his height. And one of his good friends supposedly was Diana Dawes. Now, we've not been able to confirm this, but the story goes that when Diana got married to Dennis Hamilton at Westminster, that she used Chick's car. Chick had kindly lent it to her. We've got pictures of Chick backstage with the likes of Joseph Locke coming to see him, Ben Warris, the comedian. Chick appears in several George Formby films. Unfortunately, the studios, obviously we're talking the likes of Gainsborough and Ealing and people like that, and Twickenham Studios, some of those aren't around, but the people that are responsible for them now sadly haven't got an archive that we've been able to access. So unfortunately, it's meant hours of traipsing through black and white films to try and spot possible appearances for Chick, which I think my good lady Linda has got fed up with, so just leaves me to it. But no, Chick there's at least a dozen films, and we've got one of the main ones is Trouble Brewing with George Formby, where Chick plays himself. He plays a wrestler, and there's a good segment where it's a talking part for Chick. He also plays a stuntman in The Wicked Lady, which is with Margaret Lockwood. And we're just sort of trying to gel all the bits together to, get the actual appearances all documented and do a good job on that section. And one of his such an unlikely friendship, because you sort of think, okay, Chick is a wrestler, so he's going to mix with fellow wrestlers. He's probably going to mix with a few sports personalities, boxers, etc. He actually turned pro boxer himself. We've now found out, and I've got all of Chick's fights from when he was a professional boxer also documented. I've got all the newspaper clippings from that as well. And so you think, okay, who's he going to know? Well, the name that pops up that he's best mates with is none other than Albert Pierpoint, Britain's last hangman, right? And the two of them are like this, yeah? There's a picture of them together. Albert used to say, I'm coming down to see you, Chick. I'm coming down, I've got to come down to London on business, right? Business being his profession. He's obviously coming down to perform an execution. So the two of them would get together. Now we found that the common thing that binds them together is they both have a love of boxing. Albert was a tremendous boxing fan, so much so that after he retired from his profession as the hangman, if you like, he worked for the Boxing Board of Control. I've managed to ascertain that. But the two had a great love of beer. Albert became a publican, and good cigars. Now, obviously, the trademark pick of Chick has him with his big stogie, and the two of them, formed such an unlikely partnership. Apparently, Albert was very upset when obviously Chick passed away. Sent a lovely letter of condolence. We used to send a Christmas card. We've actually obtained a copy of one of the Christmas cards that we found, where Albert is behind the bar at his pub that he owned in Oldham, just outside of Manchester. And when Chick fought regularly up in the north. One year in particular, I think there's about 28 occasions where he's got fights at the Bellevue in Manchester. So no doubt he would pop over and see his good friend Albert, and either share a good few pints and a few cigars, or probably stay the night at the pub with him. So it's been so interesting just to put together the pieces of. I've referred to it when I put promotional stuff out, as you might have seen, Steve, Chick's Colourful Life, which is exactly what it is. because a lot of people who I've been in touch with from the wrestling community have said, this is great because there's never been anything written about Chick. Chick was like one of the, obviously we're talking when Chick started professional wrestling was 1932. So we're talking way before the likes of, you know, Mick McManus, your Giant Haystacks, your Big Daddy, and all of the WWE and WWF that you see now. You know, Chick is all pre that. This is proper wrestling. You know, we got incidents from the cut-ins and the reports on the fights where Chick comes out bloodied. On one occasion, he thinks he's broken his back, and this is proper fighting. Yeah, this is proper wrestling. So it's been fantastic to piece together all of the fights as well, because we got 26 years, and Chick, being who he is, not only fought under Chick Knight, he fought under Cocky Knight. He then fought under another name when he fought abroad. So when he was out the country, he was known as by another name and known as the Russian Bear. So that sort of made it not only difficult but interesting, because every time this name pops up, right, that's Chick, you know. Obviously he's done that for tax reasons or whatever. We've got Chick, we've got a business card here. This is Singapore's lovable villain, right? Beer guzzling, cigar smoking Cockney. So, Chick Cocky Knight, and he lives out in Singapore for a year. Wow. Singapore's most lovable villain. So not only is he London's lovable villain, he's now Singapore's most lovable villain as well. Just incredible. And he meets, you know, prime ministers when he's out there. He meets delegates. He does advertising, all of these different things that again have been so interesting to write about and find out about, that sort of people had known Great Uncle Chick and just say, oh, I never knew he did all of this. Well, now they're going to have something that they can read about, where they'll be able to see exactly what Chick got up to, you know, the sort of friendships that he had, the tremendous life-saving incidents that he performed, the films that he starred in. And we fascinating as I am with not only doing the research and writing, I'm also quite a prolific reader. Obviously read your good book, Steve, but one of the most recent ones that I've been reading, which I've just completed, is Eddie Richardson's book, No Handcuffs, His Last Word on the Craze. Now, doing the research for the book, there's an incident that we come across in the newspaper cuttings, which I'd initially thought was, the way it was referred to was, the gangbuster is back, is the headline. And I thought, well, that's quite a bizarre headline. And obviously, when you're doing tapping in the stuff, the thing that crops up is obviously Chick's name. So I start reading that and thinking, hold on a minute, what is this all about? I knew that Chick had been a doorman after he retired from the ring, the late 50s. He went into door work. So he was effectively one of London's first doormen, one of the first bouncers, if you like. And one of the places that he worked, which we know about, was the Lyceum in Covent Garden. And so this newspaper cutting refers to an incident outside a nightclub in Soho, and it's all about Chick. I mean, basically, it's the most fantastic. If you're a doorman, it's the most fantastic piece of PR for your services you could ever imagine, because it details what happened outside this nightclub when 8 hoods, if you like, and bear in mind this is 1959, have obviously come to gather protection money or hassle for protection money or make a nuisance of themselves and whatever. And at the time, obviously, you've got knives and razors being used by the gangs, the guys that are mixing around. You've obviously got the likes of Billy Hill. You've got Rackman, who was the notorious landlord around, who also owned clubs as well. You've got the Krays sort of just starting on the very low rungs of their career. You've got the likes of Frankie Fraser. He's around at that time. And so what happens is these four of the guys, so the piece goes, are laid out, knocked out, right, by Chick. The other four are seen off by him. So he's sorted out 8 guys. So this piece basically details the whole incident from start to finish and what happened. And apparently, because obviously they were carrying knives and razors and whatever, Chick is left standing there in a suit that's actually torn to ribbons. Now, the later pictures show Chick with a scar on the left-hand side of his face. Now, we've not been able to ascertain as to how he got that. It could possibly be from this incident, we don't know. Getting back to Eddie's book, in piecing together, obviously, the unfortunate bit with the newspaper article was that the nightclub isn't named. But we do know, again from research that I've done, that fellow wrestlers who Chick fought and who Chick mixed with were working in and around various Soho nightclubs, being employed like Chick as doorman. One of which was the Astor Club, and obviously quite a well-known place.
Yeah.
And again, you've got the name that pops up there is Billy Hill. Now, again, from reading his son Justin's book, I know for a fact Billy Hill lived in Barnes. So did Chick. Now, it's not uncommon that the two of them would not have probably come into contact with each other. Bear in mind Chick's muscular build, the close proximity as to where they lived, probably less than half a mile away. Chick's prowess as a doorman, and you sort of start to piece things together. Again, from association at the Astor Club, one of the well-known guests that used to frequent the place was Princess Margaret, and obviously she later married Anthony Armstrong-Jones, who became the Earl of Snowdon. From research again, we've managed to find that Armstrong-Jones originally worked for Billy Hill as a runner on the greyhound tracks, placing bets. Again, something that's referred to in Eddie's book. Now, roll forward to the mid-60s, one of Chick's security jobs that he has is working at Kensington Palace in one of the sentry boxes as security. And nobody knows how Chick got that job. All right, he's ex-army and he's a doorman, but that's it. Now you just join the dots of what I've told you there with regards to the connections, and you got a nice little bit of jigsaw puzzle all slotting together there. You see where I'm going?
Very, very much so, yeah.
And you sort of think, well, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, and it's something for the reader to sort of discuss and think about for themselves. But it certainly left me thinking, there's probably more than smoke to that story, shall we say, just because of the connections that there are there, and obviously, like I say, later on where Chick works, and there's rumours that there's another incident that takes place outside Kensington Palace, which will be in the book, which I'm trying to prove at the moment, trying to get to the bottom of. But yeah, it's just been it's a fascinating.
It's clearly it's clearly a labour of love. I mean, for me, it's very rare that I would have very little to say in an interview, but because you tell the story so well, it feels rude to interrupt you, and there's a passion, there's a passion there for you for this. Do you know what I mean? I mean, this book sounds fantastic, and Chick sounds like one hell of a character, and you know you've covered everything there. I just want to dip back to the Tales of a Page, My Life at the Dorchester, because it's about your dad, who you said sadly a few years ago. Obviously, I've read that book. It's a fascinating insight into it. Do you want to tell a couple of stories, about the people that your dad met there? Because I mean, it's one of those things, we all go to hotels at some point. We all, maybe we don't all stay at hotels where you get your bags carried in for you, etc. But there's always somebody there on the door at these hotels, and walk past them, and sometimes, if we're just going out and about, we'll probably say hi and goodbye to them, and that's about it. But tell us a little bit about that book as well.
Yeah, sure. So, Dad, what had happened and how literally Dad got the job. His mum, Chick's sister, sadly passed away, and Dad and his father were the only two left at home. Dad was at Hammersmith Arts College at the time. He was on a scholarship, and he was very, very prolific artist. He probably would have gone on to be something, I think, in the art world. He was that good. But sadly, Dad's father said, sorry, Dick. He said, you're going to have to go out and earn your keep, basically. I can't afford to sort of keep us both at home and whatever. So unfortunately, at the age of 15, Dad had to sort of think about what he wanted to do, how he would get a job and whatever. And one of his pals, who lived in the council flats next door, said, "Oh, come on, Dickie." He said, I'm at the Dorchester. He was also a page. And he said, you come up there, and he said, I'm sure we'll get you in there. So Dad went up, and there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Sims, I believe it was, who was effectively like the sort of general manager of the lobby and the hotel area, front of house sort of thing. And he gave Dad literally an interview on the spot. And so, 1949, Dad starts work at the Dorchester as a page. And the pages were the young boys who you'd often see maybe in old snippets or pictures or films, where they're running around with a board saying telegram, or helping to carry the luggage for the guests and whatever at the time. So that was sort of part of Dad's duties. Because of his build at the time as well, what used to happen is when you went up and took on the role of a page, you basically had somebody else's uniform, somebody who moved on, or who left or whatever. So you had the hand-me-down. Because of Dad's size, he was quite slight in stature at the time. He had to have a uniform tailor-made for him. So he had to go to one of the top tailors in Regent Street and have a fantastic tailor-made uniform specifically for him, which is obviously he thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, going through the hotel at this period in time, you've got a lot of the major film stars and sports stars. So, as mentioned in the book, we've got the likes of Cesar Romero, who was the Joker in the 60s. Batman, starred in the original Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Peter Lawford. Peter Lawford, another guy that stayed there, that's mentioned in the book. The one sort of, I suppose, the guests that form quite an interesting tale in the book is the Bogart and Bacalls. They're there at the time. I think Humphrey Bogart is filming The African Queen, some scenes from The African Queen down in London. So they're over for quite a considerable time. And part of the page's duties is to not only look after them, but also look after I think the young boy was there. I think it's Stephen is his name. So they've got to look after them as well. So I think they're over there for a good few months, filming and going out and being taken care of, etc. So the pages have like a double shift. So they work early morning through till mid-afternoon, and then mid-afternoon through to the evening. So whoever's doing it will do that sort of double shift. So there's probably about 7 or 8 pages at that time. Dad is sort of seen as like the head boy, if you like, for when somebody comes to the end of their visit. So to go up and, see what they're going to get, basically as a reward for looking after them. And what normally happens is the guests would phone down and say, can you send one of the pages up? We've got something to say thank you. On this occasion, Humphrey Bogart phones down. Can you send one of the pages up? So all the pages go on, Dickie, you go up and, we're all waiting to see what we're going to get. Of course, obviously the tips at the time were effectively what they were living on. My dad tells a tale again in the book where basically he's living off his tips. He puts his wages every week in the envelope that they came in his bedside drawer. He doesn't touch them. He's living off the tips that he's getting. Such are the fantastic tips. So of course you're thinking Bogart and Bacall, oh yeah, it's going to be loads of dollars and whatever. So anyway, Bogart opens the door. Oh, come in, Dickie. Yep, thanks very much for looking after us. There's something over there on the table for you, which is a big wooden box. So of course Daddy's thinking, whoa, this is going to be, this is going to be something big, something we're going to all share and enjoy, thinking obviously money. So says thank you, look forward to seeing you again, etc. Departs, gets back in the lift. Whilst he's in the lift, obviously his curiosity gets the better of him. And prior to going up there, he'd actually for whatever reason, he'd emptied his pockets of all of his tips of the day and put them in his overcoat, ready to go home. So anyway, curiosity's got the better of him. He opens up the box. What's inside the box? Loads and loads of Hershey chocolate bars. No money, just Hershey chocolate. So of course, going through his mind, he's thinking, shit, they're going to kill me. When I get back down, they're not going to believe me. No way are they going to believe me. They're going to think I've had all the money. Which, of course, is what happens. He gets back down there. So, of course, all the lads are all running around, whoa, what we got, Dickie? What you got for us? How much is it? How much are we all going to get? And he don't say a word. He puts the box on the table, and they're also wondering why he's looking a bit sheepish, They go up, open the box, of course, chocolates, flipping, loads of expletives come out, as you can imagine. So they grab my dad, tip him upside down, thinking obviously he's got, where's the money, Scotty? Where's it all gone? Shaking him up. Of course, like I said, luckily he'd emptied all his pockets out of his tips, so nothing come out. So although they were a bit disheartened, they believed him that that was the case. But that was one of the incidents that happened whilst he was there.
It's brilliant. So honestly, Andy, I could speak to you all day about these two books. I mean, it's fascinating, and it's clear, as I say, it will be to people watching this, that you've got so much passion and tremendous effort as well in getting Chick recognised, getting back to Chick's story.
Thank you.
A fascinating story. It does deserve to be be made into a film and dramatised, and he definitely deserves to be recognised as a hero, because he clearly is. And just thank the Lord that when your dad took that job at the Dorchester, Chick wasn't the person who was passing down the uniform. Otherwise, he would have been in the
Indeed, yeah.
I mean, that photograph, I bet it doesn't even do him justice, But it's great days of yesteryear, and I think we hear so much about the crime and the criminals, and you've mentioned them already. They're already part of this book. The likes of Billy Hill and Frankie Fraser and the Craze and all of those clubs and the nightlife down in Soho. It was all part and parcel of it when celebrities and gangsters went hand in hand, and it's a fascinating period. And I think anyone who's interested in that will thoroughly enjoy either of those books that you've written, because it captures a certain time in London, and it captures a certain time in our history, and it's a bygone era now, but it's a one that deserves to be remembered and not to be forgotten. So where can people buy the books, Andy? Where can people get in touch with you, to get a hold of these books?
Sure. So Tales of a Page is actually available on eBay at the moment. Mm-hmm. London's Loveable Villain, again, I'm going to go down the self-publishing route, but having seen other books that have come out that have gone down a far more wider outlet, which is the Amazon route, that is what I'll be doing with London's Loveable Villain. So that is where, once that's done, fingers crossed, that should be in the next month or so in terms of completion, and then through to publication. Unless, of course, any publisher is watching this that wants to get in touch with me, that is where it will be available. I'll be putting stuff out. There's various wrestling heritage sites, and obviously I'll be sending stuff through to the likes of yourself just to announce when it is available. So I think it's very much going to be a case of watch this space with regards to the launch date for London's Loveable Villain, Steve. What I might do is get a website set up for it, or piggyback on, like I say, one of the wrestling heritage sites. And, I'll send details through with regards to that. Like I say, Tales of a Page, it's up on eBay at the moment. If people tap in Tales of a Page, My Working Life at the Dorchester, it'll pop up, and that's available for £5. It's just the thing that's taken a time. Obviously, COVID has had an effect on places being shut down and access to files and things taking a lot longer to come through in terms of like certificates, in terms of birth and death, and then obviously the service records, etc. Service record, we're still actually waiting for, unfortunately. And then the fight history, like I say, we've got 26 years of fight history that I've had to go through. So the wrestling historians have been fantastic that have provided me with that access, or helped me in terms of, double checking, because we got so many different venues across the country that we've had to check. And I'm only going through either the little snippets, and like I say, they are little, that are on the wrestling sites. The vast majority I've found through newspaper records, etc. And then these history guys have been very kind and come through and provided some more. And as a result, of me getting in contact with them. We knew it was happening, but last night we had the official confirmation and a PDF of the certificate come through. But last night, and I can now officially say that Chick, on the 9th of August this year, is being posthumously inducted into British Wrestlers Reunion Legends Hall of Fame.
Brilliant.
So again, you know, that's another major plus for him, you know, in terms of recognition. Because like I say, the guys that were around at that time, one of the guys that he comes up in contention with, not only in the ring, but obviously they mix together outside the ring, is a guy called Bert Azarati. And this guy's a tank and bigger than Chick. And the two of them have got the connection again with Diana Dawes, who pops up. There's a film again where, you know, she's obviously got some connections to the wrestling world with regards to her friendships and the people that she mixes with in her early film career. I think it's a Kid for Two Farthings is one of the films. There's a guy in there called Primo Carnera, who's a big fighter, huge, great guy, massive. That again, Chick comes up against in the ring, and going through the flyers at the time. Obviously, that's where the name London's Loveable Villain comes from, because apparently he was Chick was like Marmite, you either loved him or loathed him, which I think, judging from some of the newspaper comments, I think most of the audience hated him. But
you've got to have somebody to boo.
Oh, definitely, and that's what happened. That's what happened, Steve. Apparently, the cry up in Newcastle from a fan who's got in touch through a piece that was in the Daily Mail, place where Chick used to fight up in Newcastle, was either
James's Hall.
Exactly. Yep.
Used to be opposite the football ground, but where the Strawberry is at the Gallagher end, it was literally next door to that.
Right. So on many occasions, he fought up there. My cousin Iris actually lived up there for a good while. And whenever he came in the ring up in Newcastle, the crowd used to chant, "Dirty Chick, Dirty Chick." Because quite often in some of the reports, he'd either be disqualified, chuck his opponent out the ring, or chuck the ref out the ring, or chuck both of them out the ring.
Brilliant.
You know, again, such was his fighting sort of side, you know. And he gets referred to as Killer Cockney, or the toughest. One of them is the toughest man ever to enter the ring. And you know, Chick doesn't know when he's beaten, and hardly ever needs to. Now he does get beat on quite a few occasions actually, but it's just like, you know, to have those tags around with you, you've got to have quite a legendary status, you know, quite a, well, not only a build, but obviously that's got to be backed up. And like I say, in the newspaper report of the fight that takes place in Soho, you can quite see how, you know, and again, going back to the door work, we found. It's actually quoted in there that Chick was earning £4 a night as a doorman. This is 1959. Now, the average weekly wage then was £7 a week. So you work out how many times Chick is probably working on the door, and obviously, given the publicity that he would have attained from that article, I would imagine quite a bit. You know, he's making quite a decent sum around that time. And obviously they're going to, whoever it is that's paying him is going to be paying him a decent amount to do a good job. And obviously that's what he's done. So there's all these different things that will form, hopefully, a really decent book.
Well, it's fascinating. It's been a fascinating hour listening to you reminisce.
Yeah.
And to listen to the stories about your dad and Chick it's great. And I'm sure that the audience who watch my podcast will be thoroughly interested in that. And hopefully gets you a few more followers. You're on Twitter, Andy. What's your Twitter?
I am. Yep. So it's Andy Scott, SCO. I think it's 6257. People will find me if they tap in on Twitter, Chick Night, my feed will come up, definitely. Yeah. Well, and quite a few pictures of Chick as well.
anybody wants to check out, if they have difficulty finding you, I've retweeted a couple of the posts today, so we'll be able to do that. And
there's a link on the feed for the eBay to be able to purchase a copy of Tales of a Page as well. And obviously, once London's Loveable Villain is up, obviously, like I say, if it goes on I do the Amazon route, that'll be posted up as well, so people can follow me. And the petition is on there as well, so people can sign the petition. As of this morning, I think we're up to around 210 signatures and growing. So we want to get that up to quite a significant number. We've been in touch with Hammersmith Council. We're waiting to hear what they've got to say to obviously get Chick a plaque on the bridge. So fingers crossed about that, and that'll put a nice seal on, another chapter in that book. We actually managed to trace, funny enough, the soldier that he saved out in Gibraltar, Private E. Durant, Edward Durant. I spoke to his son, who's 90 years old, who didn't know that his dad had been in Gibraltar. He knew he'd been in the services, and we actually found his career and what he went on to attain in the services, obviously from Chick saving his life. So that was fascinating to be able to find him and talk to him, somebody who may well not have been here, but for Chick.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
That's incredible.
That's the beauty of history. And once you get into it and you start researching these things and you get a chance to meet the people, it's doesn't matter what walk of life they've come from or they're involved in. That's what makes it fascinating. And best of luck with it, mate. It sounds absolutely brilliant. I'm hoping that people watching this will check out your social media and find out a little bit more about the books. But for now, Andy Scott, thanks very much. Good luck.
Cheers, Steve. Much appreciated. Nice to talk to you. Thanks again.